To another video. This was supposed to be my StationeryFest vlog, however I filmed two clips, one of which was an overview of the main hall, one of which was the overview of the small hall, and that's it. I didn't film anything else, and I thought instead of putting that out and talking over it a little bit, I thought let's do a face-to-face video with those clips thrown in here and there, talking about StationeryFest, from the cradle to the grave almost, from application to the end of the event, how it went, how it happened, what are the options, and a little one-stop shop for anyone who's thinking of doing this event next year. I know it would have been very helpful to have some sort of video like this, and I hope this is helpful for some of you. I hope I don't waffle too much, so I do apologise if I do. I'll try and edit out any waffling. But I asked a few questions on Instagram. A lot of you said you just wanted to know general things. A few of you said what went right, what went wrong, what I would do differently, what I would take next time. So I thought we'd just run through all of that. So let's start with the application process. So for the application process, it was online, and you applied for whatever stall level you wanted to be at, and then you had to provide your information about your business, etc, etc, etc. So all of that's very generic. Most applications are kind of like that. But speaking on the level of stall you wanted, there were, I can't remember how many options, probably should have researched this, sorry. I think there were about 6 or 7 options, and they were the champion options. So that means, and it prefaced this in the application, that you had to promote StationeryFest at least 10 times on social media. You had to provide items for goodie bags for the VIPs, and you had to provide a spot or raffle prize. This was all stated in the stallholder manual as far as I was aware. I think there was a little bit of confusion with the spot prize or raffle prize. I don't know if the wording wasn't clear enough that it was mandatory or not. And then there was an option to add a standard rate. Now that was £100 more. So I think the majority of us just went, especially the small businesses, just went for the champion package. And the standard rate basically cut off your obligation to promote the event and to provide prizes and raffles, prizes and the gift bags. So if you've got to, basically, it never stated how many gift bags we had to provide for. Now, a little bit further down the line, once we were accepted, that was then provided as 250 good bags. Now, that's a lot of good bags, and apparently that's almost double what it was last year, which was fine. I for one, had some stock of some mushroom prints, which were a lower price manufactured item for me, and I just signed and wrapped up 250 of those and sent them off. However, I know a lot of people were making custom stickers, were making all sorts of things, which obviously adds up in cost, and I think for some people it worked out to be cheaper to pay the 100 rather than providing 250 raffle prizes and doing all of the promotional aspect, etc. But you must bear in mind that promotional aspect if you are applying for a champion vendor fee, because obviously if you do not promote the event, you are breaching that and you will have to pay the £100 anyway. So just bear that in mind, because I think a lot of people forgot that once they had applied. It's obviously a long process between application, acceptance, and then the market itself. So there's a lot of time passed where you forget these items. Now, Bex, the organiser, has been incredible. She has forwarded us on stall holder brochures multiple times, updating them constantly, and it has everything you could ever need. It's got the sizes of the tables. If you got backboards, it had backboard measurements, it had the material of it, had basically anything you could ever need to find out about the event, it had in there. Now, when we applied, at the time, and I think Bex didn't know that she would get so many applications, it was going to be just the main vendor hall, which is what they did last year. However, because of the sheer quantity of people applying and being accepted, they opened up a smaller room just off the main room. Now, it was a little bit set back. It was on the path towards the VIP section, but it wasn't the most obvious where that was, and those that paid for the cheapest stall fee, which was the one 6-foot table without any backboards, were placed in there, and that was including me. So on the run-up, we obviously found out that it was 250 goodie bags, sent that sort of stuff off, so you just, like I say, bearing that in mind in terms of cost of manufacture of all of that, because that will obviously add on to your stall fee and therefore be an extra amount you need to make up when you're selling. But also just be aware that if you are put in this small room, it is a smaller room. It was advertised, it had a sign saying it was in there, and I believe from people in this bigger room, I believe there was one tannoy announcement to say that there was a smaller room with extra stalls, but it probably didn't receive the footfall that the main hall did. That's all I will say. So moving on to the run-up just before. So there's a lot of Facebook groups opened. There's a Facebook group just for the stall holders. There's a Facebook group for VIPs. Now, very important, stall holders is great. You can chat in there, you can ask questions, blah, 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 blah. The VIPs is very important. So I think there were about 250 VIPs. I think that's what they were expecting in the end, hence the 250 goodie bags. And the VIPs are paying a lot of money for their ticket, and so they are big stationery lovers. That's how I will put it. They are big, obsessed with stationery, let's say, and they are a big key clientele whilst you're at these markets. There were over 1,000 people, I think it was 1,250 people in total attended this year's StationeryFest. However, the 250 VIPs, I would say promote. If you want to get them to notice you and want to come to your stall, promote on their VIP page. I think I did one post and I wish I had done more now. I would also suggest potentially a StationeryFest exclusive. I offered a free sticker, but obviously it was just a free sticker. There's nothing special about it. But if you can afford it, and you can create, I wouldn't put StationeryFest 2024 on something like a pin, but if you can create a pin and then create backings that say Stationery 2024, and it's very exclusive to that in that regard, I think that will do you very well. And if you can promote that in the VIP group, absolutely do that. So I think that's one thing I would do differently, and that would be to promote, and I would also try and do something exclusive just to make me stand out over a lot of other people. I think that would be really beneficial. And then moving up to the actual day, so you get to set up from Friday, and then obviously the whole StationeryFest day is on the Saturday. Now, you could set up, I believe, from 12 p.m, which was great. However, I had to work my day job, and I had to work earlier so that I could leave a bit earlier. I had to get Natalie to do that. Oh, another thing, take a helper if you can, because it is quite a big event and you are serving fairly consistently, so always take a helper. If not, Leanne from Lily Bean this year actually organised a group for people who were just vending by themselves so that each other can help each other, and I think they also had some helpers about. Some of the organisers came around to help people as well. But yes, I had to set up after work, which meant trying to get from my house in Leeds all the way over to Manchester, which is usually about an hour's journey, but I had to set off in peak traffic right after work. It took us about 2 hours. We got there, I think, about 6:30. Now the setup's between 12 and 8, so 6:30 didn't leave us a lot of time. There are also windows that you put down in your pre-application. So Bex would send out an application to ask when you're planning on arriving, etc, etc. You're arriving by car, by train, blah blah blah. And I think it's just so that the traffic management team can manage how people are attending, because Manchester's a busy city. It's one way for most of it, and the entrance to the Manchester Central is narrow and only allows a certain amount of people in the small car park to unload. So they gave you a window opportunity to apply for. We were in less busy time, however, it was still very busy. We pulled in, and the traffic wardens, let's say, were telling us we only had 15 minutes to unpack the car. So we unpacked the car. It took a lot longer than 15 minutes because it's cobbled where you park. So if you've got a trolley, you've got to kind of carry it from your car to the trolley and then trolley it onwards. And also we were in the back room, so we weren't directly into the main room. So it might have been a bit shorter if we were in the main room. I don't know, but it took quite a few many trips. It's not close. So bear that in mind. You know, if you have a disability or just you're by yourself, just bear that in mind. Kind of say that to them, maybe say it to Bex before the event, just because you don't want to be caught short and them telling you to move your car and you haven't finished unpacking. I mean, I don't think they'd make you move your car if you hadn't finished unpacking, but obviously they might get a bit arsey with you if you are staying there for too long. But we unloaded the car. We then had to move the car, so you can't set up immediately. You've got to leave all your stuff at your stall. You've then got to go and move your car. We did get a discount code for the NCP car park below Manchester Central. We did receive a discount code a couple of days before the event, which cut the price down by half. So it was meant to be about 60 quid and it cost us £24 for 2 days, which is fantastic. But we had to get out of the busy area, which again is quite hectic because people are coming in to unload, and quite a few of us are trying to get out. But we had to pull out, we had to go back around the one-way system and try and find the NCP car park, which is very difficult to find. Well, for me it was anyway. We've got to then park up. I did read a lot of reviews on the NCP car park below, and if there's anything visible in your car park, sometimes your car may get broken into. I've seen quite a few reviews on that, but obviously you only ever see the bad reviews, you never see the good ones. I took my car, which is quite a brand new car. I was very worried about it, I'm not going to lie. But I basically just made sure that I kept all my seats flat so you could see directly into the car. I made sure there was nothing in my pockets or the sides of my car, nothing. So if you looked into that, there was nothing for you to try and steal, and I left it there for the 2 days. I will say that nothing happened to the car, thankfully. Maybe a minor scratch on my door, but other than that, there was nothing. I'd much rather that than a smashed window. So just bear that in mind. If you can afford it and get a hotel a little bit further out that has car parking, maybe try that. But it wasn't the worst. But do bear in mind that if you pay for 2 days, as soon as you put your car in the NCP, you cannot remove it and bring it back within your timescale. Once you've left, that is your time done. You've got to rebook. So just bear that in mind if you are in a hotel a bit further on, that will be the case. We booked into the Premier Inn. Sorry, I'm flapping all over the place. I'm sorry if this is not very structured. We did book into the Premier Inn just around the corner. In fact, it wasn't even just around the corner. You could see it. You could see Manchester Central from the Premier Inn. Sign up for a business account if you're a small business, and you will get money discounted from your purchase of a room. So I just recommend that, and it was fairly inexpensive. I don't think I've got my list of costings nearby. Sorry, probably should have gotten that too. Oh, I do. Hold on one sec. Yes, so the hotel for one night was £119 at the discounted rate, and the parking was £28. So you've obviously got to add that onto your market fee as well for money you need to make back. And the 250 prints that I sent over were £27.50. So the cost of the entire event for me was £288.50. I will bring that up a bit later when I talk about money a little bit more in depth. So yes, we unloaded the car, we took the car to the NCP. Luckily it's underneath, like I say, so you get the stairs back up and you come back through and you are back into the central space and you can start setting up. So we spent the hour, well, it ended up being just an hour after doing the car stuff. We spent an hour setting up. It was kind of hard because you're obviously meeting people you know, or chatting to people that are next to you. But we set up, and we probably just had pricing and maybe a few more products to put out before it reached 8 p.m, and then they kicked us out because it was time for us to go. So we had to leave everything there. A lot of people put kind of cloths over their stalls in case, you know, people walk past and steal, I guess. But I felt quite trustworthy of all the other businesses because we're all there for the same reason. I didn't expect anyone to potentially steal anything. I don't know. Some people were a bit more paranoid of that, I believe. But then we went off, and that was it. I think a few people met up, maybe, but we were there quite late, so we just went for dinner and then went to the hotel and slept. So the next morning, we were able to set up from 7 a.m. We arrived at 7 a.m. just purely because we had that little extra bit of setup time, and I also wanted to just walk around and peruse and chat to people that I knew. So we arrived back in there, we set up the rest of our store, made sure it was all ready to go, and then we went round and had a little look around the hall, met up with some of the other small businesses that we know, said hi to Emily Harvey, to Deli's Designs, Rebel Jones, Sunshine Lane, Coco Natasha, all of the big people you know, Swirly Nicks. We went round and chatted to people. We then came back and kind of just started to prepare for the opening. So on the day of the event, there are timings, so between 9 and 10 and between 5 and 6 are dedicated VIP shopping hours. So they get 2 hours at the start of the event and at the end of the event to shop exclusively, just VIPs. And then in between that is your standard ticket price entrance, which I believe this ticket price was about £12 or something, I think. Maybe a lot more than that, I don't know. So you had a real varied mix. I think Bex let everyone in slightly early just because we were all waiting around, anxiously waiting for everyone to come in. So the VIPs had a slight little longer to shop. Now in terms of the VIPs, they had those times to shop, and they could shop during the day as well, but they had a lot of talks on in their VIP room, and I think that kind of stopped the VIPs being able to see everything they wanted to see because they had less time than everyone else. And again, like I say, being in the small room, I felt like a lot of the VIPs, even though they were passing us, I didn't see a lot of them. I definitely didn't see 250 VIPs throughout the whole day, and I will admit every time I went out to have a look at the main hall, that always seemed 10 times busier than the small room that we were in, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. You don't know. It could have gone the other way. It could have been way more busy in the small room and not as busy in the big room. Who knows? And I think a lot of people do go to see bigger brands. You know, there's not just small businesses there. There are brands that are selling back to school stuff. There's brands like Filofax there, and ink companies and pen companies, and you know, we're competing with those as well. And for people like VIPs, they're going there potentially to stock up on something like a new planner, or you know, a new pen, or glue sticks, I don't know. And there's companies there that they're going to go to. We are more aesthetic. We're for the planning aesthetics, and I think that also influences sales, I think. I also think in my case as well, my art style was very different to most of the people there. A lot of the people there were doing kawaii, they were doing cutesy things, you know, anime, things like that. Mine is realism and painting and watercolours, and I think there's definitely a divide. You definitely saw people walking around with swag bags that had filled with the kawaii side of things, and they were not interested in anything I was selling, and it was just personal preference. And I think definitely there was that divide too, which could have been another reason why I got maybe less sales than some of the other sellers in the same room as mine even. So it is just hit and miss what you are doing. Let me talk about stock. So I took absolutely all my stock. Everything on these shelves was empty. I took it all because I was unsure as to what was going to sell. I didn't know whether washi tape was going to be a big hit, pins were going to be a big hit, planner pads were going to be a big hit. I had no idea at all, so I took everything. Behind my stall was basically a shop, and I probably would still do that again next year because you just don't know. I thought that washi tapes was going to be a big popular thing. However, die cut stickers were the thing, and I've heard quite a few of the other stall holders say the same thing, that die cut stickers were very popular. My sticker packs, which were my last minute, I should probably restock these just because I need them for mystery bags, etc, etc. I did those last minute, and it turns out they were my bestseller. I think I sold about 20, 30 of them. I sold a lot, which really surprised me. I didn't think that would be a big thing. So just be aware that certain things that you think are going to be bestsellers potentially will not be a bestseller. So another thing for your stall is I would definitely look at your pricing. The weekend before Stationery Fest, we laid everything out in the living room on a table, or even the floor, mark it out to the right size, and we mocked it all up. We made sure everything was clearly seen. We made price tags, and we made sure everything was priced possible, and it was clearly priced, because there's nothing worse. And I know for me, I hate going up to a stall, and if it says two prices next to one another and I'm not sure what that's referring to, I will probably less likely to ask. It'll probably put me off from asking and buying, and I know that sounds silly to some people, but it is the case. So I suggest 100% make sure everything is signposted clearly and there's no doubt as to how much things are, because you will get people who are happy to ask, and you will get lots of people who are not happy to ask, and they will merely walk straight past if they can't see things clearly enough. Another thing, I was chatting with some of the VIPs, and they were saying how they liked how much I was engaging in them. When they're looking, I don't just stand there and let them engage in with me. I kind of was like, oh, hello. And for some people, they hate that. I understand that. You can't please everyone though. But for the majority, I think I made sales by drawing them in, by engaging in a conversation. And then they would say something like, oh, how is it going? Or, oh, this is nice. How have you done this? And that interaction and that kindness and engagement is a massive lead to getting sales. So always, even if you're feeling nervous, believe me, I was sometimes stood there thinking, I don't want to talk to these people at the moment. My social battery is completely drained. I am shattered from weeks of prep prior to this, from an early setup. I'm tired, I'm not really feeling talkative, but even if you can push yourself to be talkative for that entire day, I can assure you probably get at least 10% more sales, if not more than that, from engaging with people and from just drawing them in and telling them your story even. I think it's just a massive skill to try and do whilst you're at Stationery Fest. I do think it helps massively. Okay, so moving on to Packdown. I will run through my do's, don'ts at the end, but in terms of the whole process, Packdown was hectic. Everyone's packing down at the same time. Everyone's trying to remove themselves from the venue, get home because they're tired. The venue itself are trying to pack up all the backboards, all the tables that they have set up because they want to do it that day. All I will say is there's no staggered exit. It's free for all at the end, and it's hectic and it's hellish. I highly recommend packing down at a leisurely rate, getting it all ready, kind of bringing it all to the main doors, and then just waiting. Just hang about, chat to people if you can, just hang about and wait, because as soon as the majority of the cars have gone, you can then just bring your car up nice and calmly, pack it all away and leave. Unfortunately for us, it was peeing it down when we were leaving. A few people dropped some of their stock, which I felt for them massively. So that made it like 10 times more hectic than it already was. And I must admit, we just wanted to get home as well, and we probably should have just waited a little bit longer or done something else or gone and helped someone else, I don't know. But I do recommend not rushing out the door straight off the bat. It does help that your car is beneath the venue as well, and there is a lift. So if you don't have tons and tons of stuff to take back to your car, highly recommend just doing that. Don't bring your car up at all. It's a handy way of doing it. I know the likes of Lauren at Pintada Designs also did that. I saw her taking her stuff, and Coco Natasha actually. I think I saw them just taking their stuff down the lift into the car. For us, we had too much, so we had to bring the car up. But just bear that in mind. It is a hectic time at the end, and it's not as calm as you might want it to be for the end of the event when you're tired. So just plan ahead for that eventuality, because it is a hectic time. And then finally, I'd just like to say a big thanks to Bex. I know I've already mentioned Bex, the organizer. She managed to get 1,200 plus attendees and over 100 stalls there, and I do think it's just going to get bigger and better. In terms of the amount of stalls, I think there was double the amount of stalls and vendors this year than last year, and I think that may have been detrimental to everyone's costs in general, even in the big room. But I don't think there can fit any more in than that. I do hope I can go next year. I would definitely go next year, and I think, like I say, my do's and don'ts as an overview of this entire conversation are: promote as much as you possibly can, potentially create something StationeryFest exclusive. It's a massive help. People want to come to you and are drawn to you because you have an exclusive there. But just have fun. I think a massive takeaway for me was meeting some people in person that I chat to online, meeting some of the people I watch on YouTube, chatting to people who knew me. I was shocked. So many people kept coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I've watched you on YouTube," or "I followed your Instagram and I followed you doing the 70 mini mushroom paintings." And that sort of thing was a massive boost to me, and I felt incredibly proud to be there, to have put all the effort in to take myself there and to do such a big event with so many big people as well, and some incredible small businesses that have the kindest souls running them, and I felt proud to be there in those moments. And I think just absorb that atmosphere, even if your monetary aspects are not going well, just absorb it. I know, let's talk money. I want to be transparent with everything. I felt like I did okay. There was a lot of expectation, I think. We had a lot of small businesses saying, you know, we made 4 figures last year. It was incredible. You know, we got out there. There was sales post StationeryFest, blah, 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 blah. There was a big expectation, and I just want to be transparent and say I had a huge number in mind, and it was my, wow, I'm never going to make that number. And I know a few stalls in the big room especially had numbers like that, and they met them. They massively met them. They knocked it out of the park, and they did a fantastic job, and absolutely good for them. I'm so pleased for them. I really, really am. For the likes of me, and I think being in that small room was a bit detrimental to that. I didn't make my numbers anywhere close at all. However, I did make back my fees and I made a profit. So you cannot grumble at that. You absolutely cannot grumble at that. So let's go through numbers. Let me get my list of how much I made, and we will go through numbers. So, like I said, the market cost for the table without any backboards was £114. The 250 prints I sent for the goodie bags was £27.50. The hotel was £119 for the one night, and the parking for 2 days was £28. So that totaled £288.50, which is quite a hefty amount of money to have to make back. I'm obviously making a loss on the products I'm selling because I'm not making any profit on those at all. So you've got to think about how much you have to sell to make this money back. It's a massive thing, and you've got to think about it. Just be aware of that. But in total, I gave a couple of small businesses discounts on their purchases, so I've taken that off my amount as well. So in total, I made £468 for the event, which is a large amount. I've made that over a weekend at a stall close by to me. That fee is a lot less than this StationeryFest. However, I think the networking, I think the just being seen by new people. I've had a lot of new followers since then. I've had people commenting on Instagram and YouTube and things that have found me via StationeryFest. But I made £188 profit, which is, I'm not grumbling at that. I think that's a great amount of money to make. It's just not that amount of money that I was expecting, that people were alluding that they would make. And I guess what I'm saying is, if you apply for this, absolutely do it. 100% do it. I'm going to apply again next year, and fingers crossed I can get in again next year. But just be aware and try not to get your hopes up, because it does feel a little demoralising when you have a number in mind and you have nowhere near that number. I am happy with the amount I've made. Don't get me wrong, I'm very, very happy with the amount I've made, and I am not knocking it at all. It's brilliant. It's put some money into my art account, and it is allowing me to go on with future launches, with investing into new technical things for my business. It's allowing me to invest more money into my business. I just think anyone that's applying needs to be aware there are going to be changes every year. Next year there might be a third room and it might be even smaller. There might be a third room and it might be bigger. It might have better signposting to the small room next year. Everything's going to change, so anyone's expectations, anyone's experience from last year, from this year, are going to be different to next year, and just be aware that you may not make the money you want to make. It's a risk. A market is always a risk. I can do the same market month on month on month, and the amount I make every month is massively different. You just can never guarantee it. And I just wanted to be honest on here that it was an incredible event. I 100% would do it again, and I will apply, like I've said, but I think my expectations for next year will be lower, and hopefully I will exceed them in that case. But just don't go off everyone else's experiences. Put what you think you're going to get out of it into it, and I'm sure you will make that at minimum and more, hopefully. So I just thought that would be my experience on the matter, and I hope this has been really clear. I'm not sure it has. I'm not very good at keeping on track with what I'm trying to say. I have a list here of the points I wanted to make, and I think I've gone through them all, but whether I went through them in order or concisely, I do not know, so I do apologise. But I hope this has been an informative video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you came to StationeryFest, drop me a comment down below, and if you have any other questions, also drop me a comment down below. I'll happily answer anything. I hope I've covered everyone's questions so far, and I hope to see you in the next video, which will be, I think, a scroll box. I need to get on with that because it's been waiting there for 2 weeks. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.